Hello and welcome. My name is Giacomo Mura, and today we talk about a very discussed relationship inside the history of music, the one between Mozart and Salieri. It is very famous because of that one very successful movie that still presents a totally made up story. Definitely the rivalry, the supposed hatred and hostility between the two is basically fruit of myths and legends that developed through a couple of centuries and are still very present in the collective mind. But today we really don't want to waste time on these false stories, but on the artistic relationship between the two. That is, on the other hand, very interesting and shows a lot of respect and attention that the two paid one another. If you take a look at their operatic production, they were both primarily opera composers. Salieri dedicating himself mostly, almost only to opera, definitely in his career. Mozart, more versatile as composer, but primarily an opera composer. You find similarities and inputs that one gives and the other takes, and the other way around, that are really wonderfully interesting. Let me give you two examples. First of all, let us first really remember that the one decade that sees the presence of Mozart in Vienna is really the apex of the operatic tradition of the entire 18th century. That is really where all the evolution of previous decades really comes to the highest level. And Mozart and Salieri are the two frontrunners of this. For example, 1784, Salieri gives his basically premiere in Paris, the first opera composed for Paris. It is gruesome. It has a plot that is really bloody, full of violence, very dark, and the music Salieri writes for it is of course very fitting to this. Check the overture out, and you will immediately see. It kind of reminds of us of something. Check this out. The opera is titled Les Danaïdes. This is the overture. Of course, you know what happens 3 years later, right? 1787, this appears in Vienna. And even though, yes, this is definitely more extreme, still it owes a lot to this Salieri example. Don Giovanni, of course, you see the similarity between the two. Definitely, the two operas have both themes in common, even though the plots are completely different. Even the genre is technically different. Le Danaid is definitely tragic, serious opera. Don Giovanni is technically a comedy, a comic opera, but these beginnings of the overture is so similar in the colors, in the usage of the orchestra, in the harmonies. It's really kind of like Mozart looked at Salieri's example and learned something from that, or at least was inspired by that. The other way around happens when Salieri, in the very same year of Don Giovanni, 1787, has his third Parisian opera represented, his masterpiece, a work that is shameful, that is not really played nowadays. It is a genius opera, one of the greatest operas of the 18th century. Tarare. I'm pretty sure you never heard of this. The opera Tarare. It is a masterful work, and its overture pushes some exoticism kind of button. It creates it set it in a kind of fantastic Middle East, and Salieri through the overture summons this exotic kind of atmosphere. Check this out. Overture. Here it comes. And you have also noticed the presence of percussion instruments, pretty unusual, that are there really to give this exotic flavor. You might know, a few years earlier, 1782, in Vienna, this was represented first. Mozart overture to the Entführung aus dem Serail. And once again, the atmospheres and the kind of exoticism and the character of the music is similar to Tarare's. The continuity between the two works is pretty astonishing, and this really shows something precious to us. The two were for sure career-wise rivals. Definitely they were having the same career, and they were competing in a sense for success. That's for sure. Point is that artistically their paths, they are intertwined, and it's naive to believe that they went their own way, ignoring one another, just fighting, just having harsh feelings between each other, and that's it. Artistically, they are the two most important opera composers of the second half of the 18th century, after all, and their production, if you look carefully, totally shows that. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video with another little but great musical story.